Alrighty, thank you for joining me for part two of my discussion on forgiveness. On this one, I want to talk about how it is that we receive forgiveness. In the first one, I told you about what it was and why we need it. So what is the source of forgiveness in our life? Well, the greatest source of forgiveness comes through God's grace, as I've already mentioned, where Jesus died on the cross. You see, I believe that forgiveness is a circle. It's not a line that has a start and an ending point. It's a circle. You see, as God forgives me, there's a biblical command for me to forgive other people. And some of you are going to say, well, Lee, that's a lot easier said than done. And I'd go so far as to agree with you. You know, every day, to be honest with you, I have to make a choice to forgive other people. You know, people that have failed me, people have let me down, people that have spitefully used me. And the truth of the matter is sometimes we think that by holding on to the things that people have done to us and being bitter, that we're going to be free. But the reality is we're never free when we don't forgive. You know, I read something that an anonymous author wrote. It was along the lines of this. You know, Jesus could miraculously replicate bread. Jesus could turn water into wine. He could heal people. But you know where Jesus' real mission was in his suffering, death, and resurrection. And did you know we are most like Jesus when we're suffering? Now, that quote could be attributed to the late Pope John Paul II, in which he said that we're never really any more like Jesus to when we're suffering. And though I may not agree with some of the Pope's teaching, I think that quote is so very correct. You know, I was looking for quotes about forgiveness, trying to find something to give you that would be good and encouraging. And Tyler Perry has probably one of the better quotes. I didn't even know that Tyler Perry was a Christian until I saw his quote and I looked him up and saw it. And he was talking about forgiveness and talking about that requires strength. And I'll share that quote with you here. I've got it set where you can see it. Now, moving forward, the source of forgiveness is Holy Spirit working in our life. You see, when I'm walking with God and seeking to be more like God, then I don't want to be bitter. I don't want to be angry at other people. I don't want to be holding grudges. And yes, I know it's easier said than done, but there is a release that comes. And when we are able to forgive, and we're able to understand it, I think that oftentimes when people hurt us, that some of the hurt that they're dishing out is some of the hurt that's already within their own heart. Meaning they've been hurt, they've been wounded, and out of that woundedness, they're hurting other people. My point is this, is that if we make a point to invite God's grace into our life, that grace will be made manifest in our life in us forgiving other people. And in us moving forward, us realizing that everyone is flawed and that everybody has done things that they regret and that it's not my place to judge. And you know, I've struggled with that personally because when somebody does something wrong, I want to see them pay the price. But then if I put myself in a position about that, if God makes me pay a price every time I do something wrong, then I'd be a very poor man or I'd be a dead man. And let's just be honest. We want God to intervene when we're done wrong. And quite personally, I believe that's appropriate to cry out to God for help when we're being done wrong. But the problem is when we lack love, then that hurt turns into bitterness. And the worst thing about bitterness is that bitterness holds us prisoner. And I'm going to put you 4 truths from Lisa Turker's book about bitterness, and I'm going to put that on the screen here in a few moments for you to see. And you know, one of the things that struck me about Lika Turquoise is that she brings out the bitterness and all that doesn't come from people who aren't loving people. It's oftentimes people who were once loving, who've been hurt, who have become jaded, who become the bitter people. So I'm going to put these up here for you to look at and to read, for you to pray about, to think about, see if these are in your life. And you know what the best thing to do with bitterness is? Is to ask God to heal you. Ask God to help you to have the courage and the strength to let go and to move forward. Now, the next section of this video is going to be about forgiving ourselves. You know, I've talked about what is forgiveness, receiving forgiveness from God, and then how do we forgive ourselves. That'll be the next portion here.